countrymen and women, 9 of them should be executed, and they were executed secretly. Our information and reports indicate that Republic of China remains the leading culprits, with over 1,000 confirmed executions in 2012. There were others that were not reported and therefore were not captured in our report. This list is followed by Iran, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, and USA in that order, with over 314 for Iran, 129 for Iraq, 79 for Saudi Arabia, and 43 for USA. There were 8 persistent executioners. These are the countries that are known to execute every year since 2007 to 2012. And they are also referred to as the 8 worst offenders. These countries include China, Iran, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, USA, Yemen, Sudan, and Afghanistan.
Well, Emmanuel Ante has meanwhile been soliciting public opinion about capital punishment, which apparently remains a controversial subject, especially when it relates to someone close.
Here in Ghana, though it remains a sanction and several criminals are currently on death row, none of the 167 condemned criminals has been executed in the last 30 years. There are 167 inmates on death row, 27 of them condemned last year, while some believe such death row inmates should be executed.
Whosoever killed must be killed also. I wouldn't like to see the armed robber go scot-free or be sentenced to life imprisonment. I would rather opt that the person be killed as well.
I think such people must also be killed.
The person should be sentenced in life imprisonment, not the... Similarly, the life imprisonment can be subjected to death penalty, because if the age of the person is 30 years or 40 years old and life imprisonment, maybe the person will be there for life.
I prefer him be in prison than being killed, yes.
No, I think that thing should be looked at again. Capital punishment or death or something. Sometimes some people are killed innocently.
The amendment bill that will expunge capital punishment is currently before Parliament after the process to remove it expired with the previous Parliament, which had initiated it. The legislators have assured they intend to readily tackle it once they return from recess. But legal practitioner David Asari says until that is done, judges have very little choice.
If the law says that the person should be killed, that in terms of capital punishment, then so be it. That is what has been posted in the law. But swaying away from the law, we have what we call natural justice. Right. Natural justice emanates from natural law. So if you give a human face to it, then the person, instead of being killed instantly or being killed, sentenced to death, then I think if the person is given life sentence, it will help the cause of humanity.
Emmanuel Ante, reporting for Joy News, Accra.
Well, now away from capital punishment, the fast-track High Court in Accra has set a date for judgment to be passed on the Isofuten judgment debt trial, in which the Spanish company is demanding payment of some $1.3 million. My colleague Eric Curtis Howard was in court today and joins me with some details from today's proceedings. Good afternoon to you, Curtis.
Good afternoon to you, Smart.
Okay, so bring us up to speed. First of all, we understand the court has set a date. When is that?
Okay, a point of correction. It's not the fast-track High Court, the Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court, okay.
Yeah, the Supreme Court. It is June 14 for ruling on the case, Smart.
Okay, so what happened in court today?
Okay, let me give you, before I tell you what really happened in court, let me just give you a brief background of the case so far. Isofuten is a Spanish company that is seeking over 1.3 million judgment debt against government for what they claim was a breach of contract. According to the company, the alleged abrogation of the contract occurred in the SY Kufuor administration for the supply and installation of solar-powered irrigation systems in rural communities. You know, the company sued government in 2008 over the abrogation, and they secured a default judgment with no specific amount, actually. And in 2009, while the process was ongoing in court, the state had a settlement with Isophoton, and they agreed to pay $400,000. But afterwards, the state defaulted, and the case went to court back and forth. The Isophoton sued government back again and again. But you know, former Attorney General Martin Amedu filed a writ in court, and he said that Isophoton has no case with government, and as such, government should halt payments to the company. So this is how the case went to court, and the Supreme Court, presided by Justice Barr, somewhere last month ruled that the case should be moved from the lower court, which was the fast-track High Court, to the Supreme Court for the to be done. So far, this is how the case has been. And today in court, as usual, Martin Amedu said he has already filed his petition. He's already filed his case in court. He's already made out his claim very clear that Isophoton has no case with government. So as such, the government should stop payments to the company. So today in court, actually nothing really happened. Both lawyers came out to just come and put out the argument that Isophoton, the lawyers were also in court, and they said that indeed they had a case. They proved the reason why that one government had made a payment of that amount, shows that government had acknowledged the fact that they had a case with them, and outside they should make full payment. So the Supreme Court judges led by Justice Professor Datiba ruled that, okay, in that case, he heard both matters. He heard the situation so far. So he ruled that on June 14 this year, they will give final ruling on the matter as to whether government should continue paying Isophoton the rest of the $1.3 million they claim they owe them, or they will halt payment altogether as put in by Martin Amedu, former Attorney General.
Okay, so did the lawyers then make what is today's proceeding? Then does it effectively end the proceedings and just waiting for the ruling that will be given in June, or will the lawyers go back to make their final closing arguments before ruling is given in June?
From the information I picked up in court indicates that the closing arguments have already been made and everything. Okay. So today, actually, they were supposed to make their closing argument, but when Professor Justice Datiba asked them whether they had anything else to say, they just said that Martin Amedu said he has made his case known. He's put his case out there, and the lawyers for also say that they have also made the case known throughout. So there was the brief I got was that they've come to a conclusion on the matter as to this is how they have gone so far. So they left it up to the Supreme Court judges to come out with a ruling, which will be on June 4th.
Okay, so as it stands now, we're just waiting for June 4th for that ruling from the Supreme Court.
Right.
All right.
Yes, that is it, man.
Okay. Thank you very much, Eric Curtis Howard, from the Supreme Court, rather, not the Fast Track High Court, from the Supreme Court, where Isophoton's case was heard today, and as you rightly heard, ruling or judgment for that particular case has been set for June 4. But let's move along now to some other stories. And the Upper West Regional Minister, Ephraim Avia Nso, has stated that the Upper West Regional Coordinating Council is hatching a contingency plan to bring on retired doctors and nurses to fill the void left by striking doctors in the region. Dr. Nso made it known in an interaction with the media after visiting the Wa Regional Hospital to assess the impact of the doctors' strike there. Rafiq Salam has more. The visit of the regional minister is the second in as many weeks since the doctors began the nationwide strike. Unlike the first instance where he was accompanied by only his deputy Abu Kabiambata Kasambata, this time he was accompanied by all district chief executives in the region and some officials of the Upper West Regional Coordinating Council. At the maternity ward, he was taken round by the midwife in charge of the maternity unit, Madam Nusrata Issa, who told the minister about 4 deliveries done through caesarean operation. Dr. Nso thanked them for the service they are rendering to the people, despite the absence of the medical doctors. The team, on their way out of the outpatients department, bumped into a young man and his 5-year-old who were involved in a motor accident, which really brought to bear the impact of the strike on the ordinary Ghanaian. Addressing the media later, the regional minister, Dr. Nso, spoke about contingency measures.
Retired doctors, retired nurses, and then, if possible, and then the UDS. Fortunately, we have some housemen, and then we are talking to them to try and see whether they can take up the fort whilst we are going. In fact, to see how they can continue to carry the load of the doctors whilst we try to resolve their problem.
Rafiq Salam's report from WA. Okay, so that is it from the Upper West region, where the minister has been touring the hospital. And of course, we're keeping a close eye on the doctor's strike and the impact it's having on the people in the various regions and of course across the country, but we'll be bringing you some more health related stories as well, this time from the Brong-Ahafo region, which has recorded 5 deaths from 412 dog bites from between 2010 and 2012. This was revealed by Dr. Kenneth Gbedi, the Brong-Ahafo Regional Director of Veterinary Services, when presenting a report on anthrax and other disease affecting livestock in the region. Dr. Gbedi said an anthrax outbreak at the disease infection farm at Techiman in February this year, which resulted in the death of 3 cattle, was contained through the vaccination of all susceptible cattle within an 8-kilometer radius in the Techiman municipality and Techiman North District. He said currently the Techiman North District had vaccinated 800 cattle and 28 sheep, while 1,000 cattle had been vaccinated in the Techiman municipality. Dr. Gbedi recommended that with the resurgence of anthrax
to house nurses at the Wa Regional Hospital, sited close to the hospital, it was supposed to improve emergency response time for critical health staff. Today, its purpose has been betrayed. Only about 5 nurses live in these quarters, and all the other occupants have no medical knowledge. The Upper West Regional Minister, Dr. Ephraim Avia Nso, says the situation will be rectified once eviction plans get underway. The Deputy Director of Nursing Services at the hospital, Michael Kofi Boy, however, blamed the nurses and the Upper West Regional Coordinating Council for the situation. He, however, approves plans by the regional minister to ameliorate the conditions of the nurses.
It looks as if they have interfered in the allocation of these quarters to other departments or other beneficiaries instead of the health sector. If you knew very well that this quarter was being occupied by a nurse and the nurse is handing it over to another person, why didn't you find out the real owner of that place or the real occupant of that quarters?
Meanwhile, the state of the quarters also brings our maintenance culture into question, since most rooms are dilapidated with many cracks in the structure. Rafiq Salam's report from WA.
Now let's get to do something education related. Government's plans of getting more girls to take up ICT may not produce results as early as expected. Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection, Anao Yelitha, says the country should achieve 50% representation of women in ICT. But the chairperson of the Committee on Girls in ICT, Eva Loko, says the project is fraught with challenges such as inadequate computers and lack of access to internet. This, she fears, will disturb plans of extending the project to the 9 remaining regions. She made the observation at a ceremony to commemorate the 2013 Girls in ICT Day.
Globally, women make up just 30% of ICT technicians, lending credence to the assertion that ICT is a male-dominated field. But experts say in an era of technical advancement, ICT must not be the preserve of males. Chairperson of the Committee on Girls in ICT, Eva Loko, is optimistic the project can help bridge the gender gap in ICT.
We want to see girls use ICT for learning. We want them to use it to plan their future careers or their future business. We teach them all this. And we want them to be able to go on the net and be safe. Because honestly, ICT pays better than any job in the world. And we're talking about what? Youth unemployment, teach them ICT, they'll get jobs. or they will create ones themselves.
Communications Minister Dr. Edward Omani-Boama noted that government has instituted measures to open up the ICT sector and make it accessible to all. He added the Girls in ICT project would also create employment for the youth.
With this exposure, it will be evident to our maidens that ICT provides abundant opportunities for employment, innovation, entrepreneurship and empowerment, and indeed, welcoming for female participation and leadership. We are working very hard towards establishing a national IT council which will regulate the practice of IT in the country. If lawyers have a general legal council, if doctors have the Ghana Medical and Dental Council, IT also deserves a council.
About 20 girls who took part in the competition were presented with laptops and internet modems at a ceremony to mark the International Day of Girls in ICT.
I would say congratulations to those girls who won the prizes. But still, staying with education, the head of public relations at the Ghana Education Service, Charles Alutepaka, has said the GES is bothered by the immoral conduct of some teachers. He said as an organization responsible for the conduct of teachers, they found it disturbing that teachers should be involved in such acts of immorality. According to Pakalote, the GES has clear rules and code of conduct for its teachers. This means teachers who engage in such acts, especially those found culpable by a court of competent jurisdiction, are not allowed back to the classrooms. Various newspaper reports point to an increasing number of teachers engaging in sexual relationships with their students or pupils. Educationist Anis Hafa, however, said pupils can be protected from such teachers by completely banning those teachers or teachers who are caught or reported from teaching. He also asked that psychologists be provided in the various schools. Have also advised that the code of ethics for teachers, for teacher-pupil relationship must be followed and applied to the letter. We're now joined on the line by the National President of the Conference of Heads of Assisted Secondary Schools, Samuel Ofori Ejay. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon, my brother.
Okay, so first, thanks for joining us on the Midday Brief. And first, I want to find out how widespread or how easy is it for teachers to have access to this code of conduct or code of ethics being spoken about by the GES's public relations head?
Right. Thank you for giving us the opportunity. The code of conduct is something every teacher is supposed to know inside out. But unfortunately, some of these things, you go to certain schools and you may not readily find them available. But it behoves on the various heads of institutions to make a conscious effort to get them for especially the newly appointed teachers. But I believe too that during their training, especially those who went through the colleges of education, they are taking through some of these things before they come out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so then should we or should the education sector make it a point to get every teacher to have a copy of this code of conduct or code of ethic so that whether they were taught or not at the training institutions and those who didn't even probably go to the teacher training colleges, they can then have access to it and make sure that they follow it?
That would be a wonderful thing that the GES will do. I believe that at the time that the individual is appointed, he is given an appointment letter. And when the appointment letter comes with such a very important document, I think none of us or none of these newly appointed teachers who claim ignorance and say, I don't know, that these things shouldn't have been done, these are the things I should have done. So I think our appointment letters should be a little bit more detailed with additional information. And therefore, the person cannot claim ignorance when he is caught in the web.
Okay, but I presume then, I may be wrong though, but I presume that as heads of these institutions, you probably would know the code of ethics to the letter. Are you enforcing them? Are you ensuring that your teachers abide by them?
Oh, why not? If you don't do it, then you don't deserve to be in that position. But you see, as usual, these, this person who knows another person who knows another person, you start taking the necessary remedial measures. You want to insist on some disciplinary measures. Then in the night, you get people calling on you, please, can you mitigate this, how do you call it, sanction, and that kind of thing. That is the human element which comes in. But apart from that, I mean, the issues are clear. If you impregnate a child and you have to be dismissed, so be it. But sometimes you get the parents, the family members coming behind the scenes to come and tell you that, look, if you dismiss the man, how can he, for instance, look after the child he has impregnated? And a whole lot of things. But I think the time has come for us to say it as it is. And the law enforcement agencies, the implementation agencies or whatever, they should all be up and doing. And let's agree that what is wrong, and the sanctions must be exacted.
And of course, we also know of several instances where reports are made of harassment or abuse. And oftentimes, these cases are swept under the carpet, like you rightly pointed out, that human element comes in. What role does the school or school authorities play, or by showing their responsibility to the children and the teachers? How do you go around these issues when they come up?
You see, when we were in college, we were taught that a teacher is what we refer to as in loco parentis. You stand in place of the parents.
Yeah.
And therefore, whatever you do towards the child should be exactly what you would do to your biological child. You understand it? So that is where we are thinking that our leaders, our heads, our directors, everybody must live up to expectation. And then where it is clearly stated that when you do A, B, C, the sanctions are D, E, F. Okay? And then you know that in our system too, we have a hierarchy. From the school level, you go through the metro or the municipal or the district level, you go to the regional level before you go to the headquarters. So all these processes must be followed.
Okay, but will CHAS also, as a group or as a body, consider sending a proposal which spells out clearly that, okay, if this teacher or a teacher is caught in this situation, this is how we intend to deal with it, and there shouldn't be any interference from whichever quarters at all?
Well, we started it even from our level as CHAS members. I think about 3 years ago, we adopted for ourselves a code of ethics. And then apart from that, I've mentioned it to my executive that we will start probably thinking of sanctions. Initially, we just came out with about 10-point code of ethics for our members, and then followed by exacting of sanctions. We want to gradually whittle this down to our staff and to both teaching and non-teaching, because what is happening is not only among the teaching staff. Some non-teaching staff, especially in the senior high schools, are also doing the same. But I must hasten to add that if you look at all these abuses and so on, some of them come from these private schools, but since the tag teacher is on him or her, it is used as a generator for everybody. Some of them are not professional teachers in the first place, but once they are also in the profession. So I think now we are narrowing to those in the public sector. I think that's why if I got you right, but we are also speaking for the child who is also in the private sector. So we need to work together. We have CHAS, and I know the leadership of the private senior high schools, they call them, I think, CHOPS, Conference of Heads of Private Secondary Schools, yes. One Nana Obwedum, I know him. We've been talking together. We serve on some committees at certain levels. So we want to put our resources together and make sure that that those of us who have been given this role to nurture the future generation, these young ones, should not be the same people who will be engaged in some of these shameful acts. And when we hear this on air, we bow down our heads in shame.
And how soon will this guideline or framework be ready?
I expect that by our next meeting, we hold our annual meetings once a year, and that will be in August.
Okay.
So I'm putting a few things together. The executives will meet somewhere in June before the August meeting. And when we have taken a decision on that, then we'll take our side of the story, go to our colleagues in the private schools and see whether we can come out with a common position on the issue.
All right. Thank you very much, Sir Mr. Samuel Ofueje. He's the chair of the Conference of Heads of Assisted Secondary Schools. Now, away from that, a 19-year-old Richmond Attakumsin may finally get a chance to sit for the upcoming BECE despite his condition as a mentally ill student. This is after his mother, Vivian Nkrumah, refused to let his teacher have her way by refusing to register Richmond to sit for the exams. Matilda Nyakwa Dennis has more.
Richmond Atakobna Kumsin is a 19-year-old student of the Nungwa Lekma 4 Junior High School. As a twin, he has lived with the stigma of not being as mentally lucid as his twin brother, who is in senior high school. According to his mother, Vivian Nkrumah, a trader at the Tema market, Richmond's condition started when he was a year old. She believes his condition is spiritual, as has been confirmed by many pastors. She said she had lost 3 children after the twins and was saddened when his son came home from school one day to report he was not allowed to register for the BECE because of his condition.
My baby no sio, my mommy. You see a mom in true exams in the Namusio, Adriana, no sio, teacher phones for mom in true. To a car sample, na me raho. No, so, oh, mammy, and yes, she, any parkour yam, non one ma abanisa. Na, Mukalan to the yammy rough say, own truby, na monsieur, wo bemo watch or new diagro. Tea, dark room, your house, and a colleague from say, office, madame, so, o yam, or me corner so. At night didn't mean copper sell. And call on truby, na monsieur Panichawa, on truby, no one truby, on tiasi. Until one truby so be high and fee, but it's into a monstruby. Now, uncanny problem and train, penny funa or barber show almost soon. Into a monstruby. To make kind, I'm Monsieur Panichonka, or Nimpenny funa on them and no so, on one beshana, why you were doing Juma. Until a children of friends so, one a gusua, ye, intino. Yame boy, me mom pie. Na Obama watchro.
So I asked Richmond his side of the story.
Yeah, from train na almost is at busy no chubio, busy nankaza debe and our cultural. And Tinosi say, wa busy no unimedia cultural, wa debe and unim. Tino office, madam, necessata may amount to the Yabutari. Tinosi say, debia me componana, me general office in Tinami. Me tata ni intimna me mama so o se me mama na me se me kofrena ba na mama PTA ku aso na wa ba intina o se oni ni be kasapa na o se we nu wanya ma na ontie mi o se sisi asa me koji certificate ya o de be mama.
One could tell he is a very jovial young man suffering from a mental condition, yet intelligent.
Me I'm a spell it, and if you know spell it, I'm a write all the registration or division or suppression or multiplication or exams or BEC.
What is your favorite subject?
Pacho any Monday, Mintiasi. Exams in the culture and input. ICT ni English ni science ni social ni alemi you know me dininia freeway simple na. Number 2 Medininia Freeways, my church, Bibli, ING, WHST.
He read part of his notes. Notes he had written himself in class. Even though he got the title right, he lost his train of thought along the line but was still very determined.
Examples of the computer or the monitor or service or the exams or the more device or the element.
When I asked his mother if she had taken him to see a psychiatrist, she said they used to receive treatment at Pantang Hospital in Accra but could not continue due to the cost. Although she is married, her husband lives in the village and cannot afford treatment. She appealed to pastors to pray for her son, who according to her was supposed to be a great man. Richmond may get the chance to prove his detractors right or wrong. But the question is, can a mentally retarded person sit for an exam and pass? If he is not allowed to sit, what then is the need to go to school after all? Joy News will bring you a follow-up on his progress in the BEC examinations.
Well, we do wish Richmond well, and from all indications, or from what I gather, I think ICT might probably be his favorite subject after all, even though he couldn't point it out to Matilda at that time. But let's do some of the stories now. The Ghana Armed Forces has asked the Ghana Journalists Association to consider its report on the alleged assault of a journalist by some officers on Independence Day dispassionately. Speaking on an Accra-based radio station, the public relations officer at the Ghana Armed Forces, Colonel Mbawine Atentande, insisted that the issue is not a question of saying someone has done wrong, but having to find out what happened. He also denied that one of the journalists was slapped by one of the soldiers. Colonel Atentande, however, cautioned soldiers not to take the law into their own hands to do anything against anyone, since the service does not condone that. The Ghana Journalists Association has meanwhile expressed its disappointment at the report issued by the military exonerating some men in the army and police personnel who assaulted two journalists at the 56th Independence Day celebration at the Independence Square. According to the outgoing General Secretary of the Ghana Journalists Association, Bright Blewu, the argument of minimum force being used by the military is unacceptable. The national coordinator of the Zira Group, which has been contracted by the state to seal potholes on the country's roads, has admitted making flaws in figures he put out as representing work done so far. The Thursday, April 11 edition of the state-owned Daily Graphic carried a story headline, Jida Road Maintenance Module covers 120,000 kilometers, in which he was quoted as saying the program, which is under the Ghana Youth Employment and Entrepreneurial Development as Agency, that's JIDA, had covered 120,000 kilometers of roads in the country. Checks by the Daily Guide established that the figure was far in excess of the entire road network in the country, which is estimated to be 109,515 kilometers. Many people questioned the assertions of the Zira boss in view of consistent complaints from the company, which faces stiff competition from other private companies for contracts and the failure on the part of government to release funds on time to enable it function competitively. Confronted with figures, National Coordinator of the Zira Group, Awal Mohammed, said, "It was not the case that I said that we patched 120,000 kilometers of road." He clarified that there are more than 33 private contractors who are also into the pothole patching business, and even if they summed up all their work, they will not be able to achieve that figure. The Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, SHRAJ, has adopted a comprehensive multi-sectorial anti-corruption action plan to make the fight an integral part of the regular annual activities of public institutions. Joseph Withall, SHRAJ Deputy Commissioner, explained that the National Anti-Corruption Action Plan, or NACAP, was developed taking into account the limitations and shortcomings that characterized previous anti-corruption strategies. Withall said the action plan constitutes the benchmark to assess the performance of stakeholders, especially government, in the fight against corruption. He added, the plan also goes beyond controlling corruption in the public sector as it targets the private sector and embraces the activities of state and non-state actors regardless of gender, age, local or national or international status. The NACAP strategy focuses on corruption in the country, causes and effects measures to control corruption. It also outlines measures for strengthening key anti-corruption and law enforcement agencies, improving investigation and prosecution. Fire has razed down a 1910 building within the Central Business District of Idum in Kumasi, destroying about 15 shops. The cause of the inferno, which started at about 9:45 p.m. last night, is yet to be established. Residents in the building managed to escape unharmed. Mohammed Nuruddin sent in this report from the Ashanti region.
The cause of the fire is unclear, but residents attribute it to electrical fault. The 1910 building houses a number of shops, including Antrak Ghana Limited and the Ashanti Pharmacy. Several properties running into thousands of Ghana cedis were consumed in the inferno. It took several hours for fire tenders to bring the blaze under control because of lack of water hydrants within the locality. Victims blamed the destruction on the late response from the fire service, called on government to construct water hydrants within the Central Business District.
Well, to some other story, low-cost airline FastJet now has the all-clear to implement their plan to operate in Ghana and 3 other African countries. This is after FastJet signed a memorandum of understanding with Fly 540 to end the protracted legal dispute over payment and licensing agreements in Africa. FastJet joined forces with Fly 540 in June last year to gain access rights in Ghana, Kenya, Angola, and Tanzania, but the deal fell through. Fly 540 withdrew the licensing rights and launched a legal battle accusing FastJet of breaking its agreement on payments. But in a statement signed by the Chief Executive Officer of Fly 540 Aviation, Don Smith, the two have reached mutually beneficial and constructive relations. Both FastJet and Don Smith are pleased to be putting the unfortunate, highly publicized events of the past few months behind us, the statement said. Don Smith remains the CEO of the Kenyan business, and we are pleased to have him as part of the FastJet Fly 540 team. This means FastJet can now realize its plans of entering the Ghanaian domestic airline market by the end of this year. Meanwhile, the budget airline, which has already begun operations in Tanzania, has suspended flights to Zanzibar and Kilimanjaro because of the current low tourism season. We'll take a break at this point and we'll return to give you some wellness and some bits. Okay, so you haven't seen a tag team action in a while. Kind courtesy of the Supreme Court hearing of the landmark case. So we've often had to just do it one
or the other.
Yeah. And we never get to do a full 1 hour. So at least today, after how many weeks or whatever, JJ is in the house.
And it's good to be back.
Yes, it is. It's good to get you into the studio so I can... No, I won't use that word.
No, what are you up to, Smart?
Oh, no, nothing.
You better be sweet to me. Today's wellness is on something sweet.
Oh, really?
Something sweet, sticky, and gooey. Okay. You can't figure it out, huh?
No.
Okay. Some people refer to it as liquid gold, but most of us understand it as honey. The substance we're specifically referring to today, though, is raw honey. Honey in its purest form, honey that has not been filtered, strained, or heated above 115 degrees Fahrenheit. The medicinal properties of honey have been known for almost as long as the human race has been eating the sweet gel. Indeed, according to the King James Bible, King Solomon in Proverbs chapter 24 verse 13 said, "My son, eat thou honey, for it is good." Today, honey is slowly being integrated into modern medicine, as studies reveal that it is an excellent topical application for healing wounds. So let's delve deeper into the amazing benefits honey has to offer.